Hey everybody, and welcome to the Rabbit Trail Podcast. This is the podcast where we chase the truth wherever it runs, and we are on episode number 187.
187.
Thank you, Brent. And hey, we are diving into all kinds of conversations that we had from the sermon, maybe where it was dropped, or just kind of exploring where it goes. And that sermon was preached at Olive Branch Community Church, which is the sponsor of the podcast. My name is Greg Harris, the senior pastor here, and we're glad if you're joining in and checking us out for the first time. Welcome aboard. We're excited that you're with us.
I'm Teresa, and we would love to hear from you. If you have any questions, you could send them to rabbittrail@obcc.church.
Ooh, good job. And my name is Brent Branchard. I'm the Connections Pastor here at Olive Branch Church. And I just want to say that whatever platform you watch or listen to, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, subscribe, like it, hit the bell. And don't forget, if it's a topic that you feel like, wow, that was powerful, feel free to share it with other people and let them know that we're here, and tell them to like it and subscribe to it as well.
Yeah, good job. Yeah, thanks. We are here. We're diving in, but real quick, let's ask our normal question. So what'd you guys do last week?
Last week.
It was Mother's Day.
It was.
Yeah. I think it was a beautiful Sunday at church. Yvette planned a flower bouquet. Wait, I don't know.
It was like a flower bundling, making your own flower bouquets.
It was just beautiful. I loved it. It was a beautiful Sunday. And then I hung out. My kids made me dinner, so it was great.
Yeah. Awesome. How was it? Do you want to comment? No.
Nate made great guacamole, and then they made tacos.
Oh, dude, that guacamole
and
is
he
so
fried
good.
the taco shells perfectly. He's literally the best at making taco shells. And then
Listen to that, all you single ladies out there.
Yeah, and then they did all the dishes.
Yeah, just crashed, and I enjoyed my kids celebrating their mom. So it was pretty awesome. I'm like, and I was pretty hungry. I was lights out after church, but it was good. It was fun to see. It's neat when you're working at them for a couple weeks, and then they just take it and they go, and you're like, they did it. I'm just proud daddy.
Awesome. And again, it was Mother's Day weekend, so I got off easy actually this year because Nancy wanted to go to the Lazy Dog, and she saw this special for Mother's Day, and she was all excited to do it. And me and Corey were like, we've eaten there. I'm not really that impressed, And I'm like, we did it. We did a lunch there for church one time, and I was just like, I think that. A little pricey, and the menu's not that exciting, but I had a great time, and the food was good. The menu was I was really impressed this time. But that was simple to take her out and celebrate her. And then my mom for Mother's Day wanted to go to Sizzler, and so
it's like you're the branch on place.
So we went straight to Sizzler and did lunch with my mom, and so that was fun and easy, and just being able to sit around the table with those you love and visit. So it was great day.
I think my highlight after Mother's Day had to be we did the National Day of Prayer, because we like to pile the same things on in the same week. And it was kind of at church, and I got the chance to do the worship, and I don't get to do a lot of worship leading anymore, and I really enjoy it. But it was really fun because I got to do it with my daughter, and there's just something fun when you get to sing with her. And I just it was one of those moments where it's like, it was refreshing. I miss getting to do that because I like leading worship in that way. But it was it was a good time. And man, there were some super insightful people who spoke, like kind of introduced the topics, and I was really impressed with just some of the way they drew it out and laid it bare for people to be praying for. So it was good.
All right. So again, we started a new series this week called Handle with Care. How many weeks is it? 6?
It's going to be 6 weeks.
6 weeks. And we also have the cards, so that's cool. Every week you get a card, so collect them all. And if you got all 6 of them at the end of the series, then I think we have a little prize for you too. So a little fun thing. So collect the cards. Maybe get 2 so that you have a rookie card to put away. But Handle with Care, and this is really based on conversations and relationship stuff. And the first one was words. And so I sat down at the very beginning to take notes, and I saw handle with care words, and I was like, oh, okay, I know where this is going. And so I wrote down on my notes right off the bat, sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And then I wrote, what a crock, you know.
Hey, wait,
Cusser.
so you got it right.
Yeah.
Your first blank was right?
Oh,
Well,
no,
it wasn't
because
a
it wasn't a
blank,
blank.
I know.
It wasn't a blank. But, and I don't know that you started off that way. I think
No, I didn't.
You hit it later. So so I did think, oh, I'm ahead of the game. But you know, it is true that, you know, we kind of as children learn, you know, sticks and stones will break my bones, and words will never hurt me. And it's just really a lie, because words do break us, you know, and they can build us up, and that's, you know, from Scripture too. In Ephesians 4:29, you talked about let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, only such as is good for building up. So I just kind of throw this out there, just, you know, so we can all kind of talk about how bad we are. But do you do that well? You know, let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, only that is for building up. Do you do that well? And how has that answer played out in your life?
Well, I would say that I've done it better at times and worse at times. I think it's one of those like give and takes.
Wow, tell it two cities, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
The best of
something
times
close.
and the worst of times.
But for me, yeah, I think about like there's intense moments of stress, and there's been intense moments in our lives where we're dealing with like issues with our kids or issues with each other. And I would say that in general, when it comes to Teresa and I feel like we have a tendency to do a really good job in our conversations of building. I would say that I'm hit and miss with my kids at times. Like there were seasons where I just was letting my anger out too much and not stepping back. And there's times where I struggle at work. Like sometimes it's just kind of funny. I hate believing this, but like I want to build people up, but then I over compliment, like so that I've had staff members who felt like because I had complimented them, they were just like, they were the best. So they were the experts and they knew everything. And they would use it against me, where I'm like trying to coach them later. And so it's always made me paranoid. Like
why are you looking at me while you're saying this?
Because I'm talking to the one with the highest self-esteem in the room. Build up words, Greg. Build up words. So it's a hit and miss for me. I don't know. How about you, Tress?
I feel like there's two different aspects of the conversation. It's like cursing, like what kind of words do you use? And then the intention, you know, are your intentions to build up or tear down? And so I feel like those are two different things. I would say that for the most part, I don't struggle with cussing or cursing, but I think that I am maybe too quick to critique or point out like bad things, you know? So I don't know that I think that's an area that I need to grow in, is building people up. And I mean, not that I don't ever build people up, but I just think that it's something that I can grow in.
I think that if the rest of the verse talks about in like almost in the right occasion, right? There's this this idea in it that is only as good for building up as fits the occasion. And so I think that you have like, I think sometimes you may come across bluntly and very forcefully in some of your comments, but it's not that it's bad. You're not trying to tear down. It's just, I think sometimes we even can miss the right occasion with even our positive or our negatives. Like I think my thing was I was missing the occasion. I wasn't being specific enough. And so I was giving them an overinflated sense of something, you know, and where it may have been better to use a different tact or
maybe
a
more
different
specific in your praise, yeah.
Or even, like, or not by not confronting. We'll get into some of these topics later in the series, but because when you're just talking about words, this is the broadest conversation that we're going to have, and then we're going to kind of keep narrowing it down. We'll do mindset, then listening, and then we're going to dig all the way down into like, how do you have a good conflict? How do you confront somebody to bring change? What's a good encouragement really look like? Because all these are part of that building up process. But I don't know, Brent, how about you?
You know, for me, I do try to be positive. And I feel like I am a positive person for the most part. right? I'm try to be happy. I try to be not let things
Especially
get me
when it
down.
comes to yourself.
Yes, exactly. I am so good at encouragement in that regard. But I will say, though, sometimes I feel like I correct people too much, you know. And I know probably the negative side of this playing out in my life, and especially my relationship with Nancy, I think is for me, I am passive aggressive by nature, right?
So the opposite of me.
Yeah? You're aggressive. You're aggro. That's what you are.
No, just direct is what I would
We've sat
say.
ourselves
Direct.
in the
order
order of aggression.
She's gotten worse with
wait.
those steroid shots, too.
Would you say that you're more he's more passive aggressive than you?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
I'd be more sarcastic if I was more passive aggressive.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you know, I feel like for me, sarcasm has always been a tool and a weapon for me, you know. And in my marriage, though, not necessarily a weapon, you know, it's more like an avoidance thing where if there's something that is like that's bothering me, instead of like sitting down and going, let's talk about this, you know, I will just drop sarcastic comments. And I know I've said this numerous times where I just hope she goes, oh, that's me. I should probably stop doing that, and then correct herself. And that doesn't work. And really just how that has really played out is I don't know that I would realize how often I am dripping sarcasm to where she's, you know, I feel like she's asked me at times, do you even like me? You know? And I'm like, of course. So again, number one, when you drip sarcasm, then when you say the opposite, it's hard to believe. But the other side is, if you're dripping sarcasm a lot, and then it's like, okay, this is an issue that we need to confront and talk about. It just feels overwhelming to her, like everything is negative, you know? Where it's like, we really haven't talked about this, but she feels like she's been beaten down by it, you know, forever. And for that, I apologize, and I really do want to do better. And I've been trying to mind my tongue, and not just since Sunday.
But no, I think that's a good few illustrations. Like there's different ways that we can have intentions and them not come out right. We'll talk mindsets next week, but when we think about that, it's like sarcasm. I don't think some people would really think of that as having potential to break down. You know, there's some sarcasm that's just lighthearted and fun, but then there's, like you're pointing out, passive aggressive sarcasm. There's even on points where I found encouragement was actually not helping to build up. It was doing the wrong job. Like I'm kind of on this anti-sycophantic kick right now. I keep bringing it up because I just see it so much right now. Everybody's like false praising and blowing. We used to call it blowing smoke, right? You know, and it just I don't want to get into a space where I want to do that, but that's causing me not to actually rightly encourage and rightly engage. And then there are times where I think you're really doing what's right, but in our current cultural setting, like with all the sycophancy and all the kind of, you don't tell anybody bad things. It's like the direct, true, helpful thing that you're telling them is being taken completely wrong. So there's also, it's like for like the listener, how important do you think it is to recognize your patterns in these ways? Like we're being pretty aware.
Well, I feel like that is in everything. So like whenever we're asked advice about something, my first thing is like, you've got to know yourself, because then you know what kind of advice you need. So like for me, I'm not passive aggressive. I don't struggle with that. So I don't need help in that area.
The only time she's ever done it, she's not even very good at it.
I think I'm being passive aggressive and I'm not.
I'm giving you a guilt trip.
I think I'm being passive, but we need to address this now.
But like for me, I think the biggest thing that I struggle with is just timing and knowing like when to say what I'm thinking and address it, and not and then also knowing your audience, you know. And I think that with your words, there are things I can say to Greg that I can't say to anybody else. You know, like we've built a relationship on such honesty and such, like, we have such vulnerable conversations. And so one of the things that I've made a mistake is that I transferred that into my relationship with my kids. And I started realizing, like, oh, I don't have that relationship with them. You know, and I might in the future, you know, but right now I have to be way more cautious with how I talk to them and tell them what I'm thinking, because it can be frightening.
But I also think that there's a reverse to this. So in all of these conversations, one of the things I'll bring up this week is that communication's two ways, right? There's the sender and the receiver, right? There's the starter, the one who starts the conversation, the one who's getting the conversation. And what I see is that on one side, what's your pattern in your communication, your forward communication, but then what's your pattern in listening? Because I do think that we have a hypersensitive people. We're very incapable of hearing disagreement. I can remember having grown up in a very passive-aggressive, guilt-driven family, that one of the things I've struggled with is I couldn't actually listen to like talk radio. I couldn't listen to debates. It would cause me anxiety, and I'd have to turn it off because they were disagreeing on, you know, like on this thing. And it's just a weird, I've gotten used to that. I've gotten better at that. But I realized I was a weak sauce. I was like a weakling when it came to difficult things. And you're laughing because you're like, yes,
so
amen,
funny.
brother. She's so not passive aggressive.
Well, and my family is all very
Straightforward.
There is passive aggressiveness in my family, but for the most part, I would say that we're more aggressive.
Assertive. They're not aggressive. They're very assertive.
Like lack of a filter, or just more direct?
No, like just a little bit more direct. Yeah, like
they see it, they're going to call it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
I mean, my parents, especially as they've gotten older and now that we're adults, hold back a lot. And I don't even know how much they're holding back because they don't tell me. But when we were younger, I don't feel like they held very much back.
And that's the thing, like with me, I'm always making jokes and stuff. And, you know, I remember Greg one time. No, it wasn't Greg. It was somebody else at a staff meeting. And we walked out and they were new. And they're like, I can't believe you said that. And I'm like, you have no idea how many things I didn't say. You know, how many things I held back. And it doesn't look like I hold back, but I do. You know, and again, I think, you know, you said know your audience. And I think that's probably part of my problem is the audience, right? Because
you like the audience.
It's like if I could get a laugh, that justifies the sarcastic comment, right?
At the expense of the other person.
At the expense of the other person. And that's just always, you know, I want to laugh, you know? And so I will say things that way. And I do need to just learn to speak only when it improves upon the silence.
But I mean, are there things that you and Nancy have talked about that you are okay with her for you to make fun of? Because like growing up, my brother made fun of me, and there are things that he made fun of me about that I think are hilarious. And they don't affect me in a negative way at all.
If I am going to, like maybe I'm doing a sermon, or I'm, you know, we're doing premarital counseling or something, and I'm going to use Nancy as an example, you know, I always get her permission first, you know. I don't like try to humiliate her in public and then ask for forgiveness later. But it's the spur of the moment comments, you know. And usually I will say that she takes it well for the most part, you know. And I will say my dad was sarcastic. He was a jokester, but he never ever said anything disrespectful about my mom. He never made her the butt of a joke. I didn't get that gene. That gene passed me. and so I do feel bad for Nancy that, you know, that is part of.
If you want to see how this works, go back and watch our Valentine's Day special. And just if there's ever a shot on Nancy's face when Brent's making a joke, you can see that they're very comfortable with their.
So most of the time she's okay.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just those things that get under my skin with her are the things that are kind of more off limits when it comes to
making the joke.
Don't pick that scab, you know.
Yeah.
So, but again, this is like how we're talking to people and how we're, you know, communicating with people. But also, as we were growing up, how did you handle hurtful comments to you in a way to help you cope with them? You know, and did those coping mechanisms work for you?
No.
No,
they did not.
No, I mean, I was ridiculed continually. I mean, I got too sad of a story when it comes to that, because it was like the time period in where self-esteem was supposed to be the big deal. Everybody's supposed to have great self-esteem. That's what the entire school district was aimed at. And I know because my parents worked in the school district. So it was like everything was about self-esteem. So it was all this kind of like protective kind of conversations. But at the same time, I had like two worlds going on. I had like I was the golden child in my, I don't mean this like arrogantly. I literally mean like I couldn't do anything wrong in front of my aunts and my, my female cousins.
In their eyes.
Or like, yeah, in their eyes. I could make the dumbest jokes. I still, to this day, it is the weirdest thing. I'm like, you think I'm Brent, and I'm so funny when I'm with my family, because they just think it's funny. We all have a similar sense of humor. And so then I would go to school and do those same funny things. And everybody's like, you're a weirdo. You're an idiot. Like literally, I brought up the statement, hey, did you write that song? No. Well, maybe you should let the person who wrote it sing it then. Because it would be like I had that thrown in my face so many times. And it didn't stop me from singing, but it did. It's like, wow, I remember those. And it's like, haven't gone through, some physical altercations on my block. I lost my 2 front teeth as a 5-year-old by having them punched out of my face by the neighbor boy because he was just wanted to punch me. But it was just like, I've gone through a lot of that stuff. And so, no, I have a hard time in the past handling like negative words. Today, I'm more likely to sit back and go like, it depends on who you are if you're throwing them at me. But I do have a tendency to overthink it. Like, if you'd say something negative to me, I'm probably going to process it and be like, well, there's probably some truth there. I'm not going to defend myself. I don't defend myself. It's probably one of the few things I need to figure out how to do better. And that's my defense mechanism, is not to defend myself, but to go like, is there truth in that?
Defend yourself from yourself,
No, you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, really, I think that's part of it. Defend yourself to yourself, because I can defend myself to you, but if you don't believe it, really, it's not going to go anywhere. So part of it is like, how do I defend myself, in the truth,
No, I think the opposite is with you, Teresa. You've learned very well to kind of draw appropriate boundaries, and it's not like you tell people off when they've hurt you, but I've seen you stop people from, like, we've tried to teach our children, like, hey, you don't talk to me like that. Like, just use that frame. You're not allowed to talk to me like that. Drawing those boundaries. Do you want to, I've seen you kind of.
I was trying to think through, like, I feel like hurtful comments to me, it depends on who it is. If it's somebody that I don't care about and isn't in my life, I would say that it matters pretty little to me. Like, it's not going to like upend me. If it's somebody important to me, somebody that I respect, then it's going to upend me. I think that the kind of hurtful comments that are hard for me are the ones that were intended in a negative intention. Like, so if somebody says something to me that's hard to hear, that is actually not, it's painful, but I really appreciate growth. And like, I like when people are honest with me. I don't like being lied to. I don't like flattery. I don't like. So for me, if somebody close to me, like if Greg is willing to come and tell me the truth, I like that. But that doesn't mean it's easy, but I like it. I don't like when somebody intends to hurt me, when I feel like
they're putting you down.
They're putting me down to hurt me, not to make me better.
But there's a nuance in there too that I think is important. Like, because I can agree with all those things. The difference is when the nuance is that they intentionally hurt you right where you already are vulnerable. You already struggle there. It's like they figure somehow they pinpointed that wound and then they purposely just slam it. Those are the worst. Those hurt the most. Those are the breakdown kind of comments, right?
But also, like when I'm asking this, I'm thinking more in your childhood too. I mean, girls can be pretty catty. I mean, boys tease each other. Girls, do you feel like there was things in your childhood that, how did you deal with that or cope with that, or were you? You didn't really get.
I didn't get made. I mean, I don't want to say this, but I don't think he listens to the podcast. My brother's probably the only person that made fun of me growing up. He does not want to be reminded of that. But yeah, I didn't really get made fun of. Like, I didn't. Maybe I just was unaware of it. I don't know.
No, but there are certain comments that are like like for me, one of the haunting comments that was given to me by my dad, and it was a positive comment, but it was haunting, was that he sat me down one day and says, "I'm making you into a Renaissance man." Like that's what his statement was to me. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So that kind of haunting set a set of expectations on me. Those words ring in my ears. Like if I'm not being successful in multiple fields of things, I'm not upholding what my dad wanted me to be, right? That was his intention to bring about a positive, but it wasn't. Like I think that's the kind of crazy things our brains can do and our lives can do. That even in the positive comments, as children, we don't realize how our children are processing those things in the environment that we're setting up. So there's so much to building versus breaking down. That's why we've got to, it's not just the words or the way we use our words. It's our mindset in our words. It's our intention of the conversation. It's how we're listening. So while this is the kind of teeing the ball up, it's going to lead into some pretty deep waters, I think, for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, growing up, in junior high and high school or elementary school, and kids would tease, and say things, I always coped with it with humor, right? I mean, number one, I always felt like I could out insult you with humor, not really, and sarcasm. But also, if you're gonna make fun of me or say something, then I just make fun of myself. If I could make fun of myself, it disarms the power that you have over me. I would say from a presence sense, right? Not from an internal sense.
You're winning. Yeah, you're winning the audience, so they're not joining you.
And so I do. You get the sympathy of that, but also I'm not showing you that you won, but it does affect you, even though you're coping with it, in what the best way you know how at the time. Where, I grew up, in many ways very insecure as a person, still am, but it's just, it just goes to show that, this stuff in your childhood affects you, and that's why we need to be so careful of what we say and build people up, because everybody is dealing with their own insecurities, and it's hard to get past them, especially when they're reinforced by others around you.
There's a great book out there by a guy named Jefferson Fisher. He has a pretty good podcast, pretty good YouTube presence, and it's called Your Next Conversation, or The Next Conversation. I think it's The Next Conversation. But he talks about bullies. He talks about people who put you down and stuff. And this is something that if you've got to teach your kids and yourself something, if this is a problem in your world, Teresa, I like the idea that we teach our children to stand up for themselves. It's something that in our family we're having to learn, which is like, no, you can't talk to me that way. And if you continue to, I'm going to walk away. That's a boundary setting. Right. Jefferson Fisher says is another strategy is simply lean in and go, say that again. Mm-hmm. Can you say that again? So if somebody like hammers you with some breaking words, you say that again, and then they say it again, and they look worse the second time because now it's focused. You turn the spotlight on them, and then you follow it up with, so are you intending to hurt me? Is that what you're trying to do? And by exposing the heart condition of the other person, it defangs the actual intent, and it actually can either make them back off, apologize, or because most people aren't actually trying to hurt you. Right. It's the really mean-hearted people that are, and they look really bad in the end. Mm-hmm. So they're just an interesting couple ways.
I actually disagree.
Huh.
I think
just so you know, I'm messing stuff up lately with my ideas, so I may have gotten him completely wrong. But that's
no, in the sense of I think that I agree with you in the heart of I don't think that most people are out to destroy you. But I think in moments, we do get into our flesh, and we, in that moment, do want to hurt you.
Oh, I see.
But if you're caught up and then you kind of get snapped out of it, you're oh, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Right? So ultimately they don't want to destroy you, but there was a second there where they did want
you're in your
bring
flesh.
You down a little bit. And so I do think that there is,
I
hurtful intentions,
Yeah.
But
and so one of the things you talked about too is cussing, of course, talk. What do you think?
One of them, yeah.
Huh?
As one of those word concepts.
So just briefly, what do you think of Christians who cuss, And I know not what do you think of them, but what do you think of Christians using real cuss words? And second, what do you think of people using Christian cuss words?
Well, again, I think that if you go back up to the term here, it says, let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, only such as is good for building up. So there's two aspects to cussing that we have to be careful about. And I'm not giving permission. I don't think that I'm giving permission for cussing. But there's the off case where a cuss word comes out of your mouth because it's like you hit your thumb and you're just like, whatever. And I think that says more about the habits you've formed with your mouth than it does anything else. But is that necessarily evil that you said some expletive when you hit your thumb? Not necessarily. However, the intention of the words is more critical in the text than anything else. When you are using cuss words, I think, and you're using them at people, even if you think like, oh, it's just part of my vocabulary, I would say that's really not a Christian vocabulary, because they are words that are inherently words that tear people down. They're inherently things. Either I was just kind of looking up a history of cussing I looked it up in the dictionary in the past, doing a quick other one like on chat, just like what's the etymology, pulling stuff in. And it's interesting because in the 1600s up to about early 1800s, all cussing was religious. It was blasphemy to God. You are using God's name in vain. Yeah, and so you can hear it in our silly words like, oh, geez. Well, that used to be Jesus. Oh gosh, golly, that was oh my gosh was avoidance of God. In fact, jeepers is a substitute for Jesus, and the weirdest one here is gadzooks. Gadzooks. Well, that was it used to mean God's hooks or Christ's nails was a way of like cursing, and so all this was religious. Nowadays, it's all scatological. Meaning it comes out of the body or it's something you burn, like I said. Or cuss words are actually physically wicked to people. Like we're devaluing them. The old ones, which we still are using, like God damn and that kinds of stuff, when you put them in a cursed term towards people, it is blasphemous in that sense too. It's like there is this judgment. Well, that's a judgment call. When you're using God's name in vain in those cases, that is just bad. Now, in the sense of religious, I would say, first of all, like Christians that cuss are a contradiction. I think it's something you should be working out of, not something you should be working into, right? It shouldn't be like, well, I grew up in the church and I never cussed, so I'm going to cuss now. It's like, I think it's just degrading your intelligence, to be quite honest. I think it's causing you to get into a practice of degrading those who are made in God's image. And James says, my brothers, this should not be. So there is the progression of the Christian life should be that of not using cuss words towards people or things. Now that doesn't mean, again, that you can't read a cuss word or hear a cuss word. There are people who get so freaked out that I read a cuss word, like you're watching a movie and the subtitles are up and you're like, oh, I just sinned because I wish it would have said gadzooks. Yeah. and I just want to like let people like relax a little bit. That reading it or hearing it is not sinful. I mean, otherwise we would have some issues, because when Jesus says, when you tell your brother raka, which was a cuss word at the time period, it was calling them a fool. Now, Jesus is using the real word that would have made a Jewish guy blush, but he wasn't using it at a person. It's not wrong to read it in the dictionary. It's not wrong to have heard it, but it is wrong if you internalize it and you're using it toward people. And so we don't have to get into acting and all that stuff, but it's, I would say that there is a question mark. Like, say you're a Christian and you're a famous Christian and you're like, well, you're just dropping the F-bomb because you're in an interview and you want to, like, why do you have to do that? I would challenge them to say, like, is this like somehow you're trying to relate and you don't realize what you're doing? I mean, is this because I know people who feel like, oh, well, if you don't cuss, you're not going to relate to people. And it's like there are pastors that would start cussing. It's just like this isn't helpful. This isn't worth it. I don't know. What do you think about Christians cussing? Either of you?
I mean, for me, I feel like, and I think Tristan and I kind of discussed this a little bit yesterday. I do feel like Christians who cuss, sometimes they're new, right? And so they're just trying to overcome a habit that just keeps lingering with them. Mm-hmm. It always cracks me up too, and when you talk to people about cussing, like I can't help myself. It's like, do you cuss in front of your grandma? No. Okay, you can help yourself. But
context, baby, context.
The other side is, there's people that are Christians, are working maybe in the construction industry or something like that, where that language is prevalent all around them, and so you just become desensitized to that. That familiarity of that word being used means, you lose the purity, right, of speech, mm-hmm. and it just becomes another word to you, and so you don't even think about it. Where, and I think it happens with anything in life, is where something will seem like this is taboo, but the more that you are in it, all of a sudden you're comfortable in it. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I remember when I was in high school and I just become a Christian, like they got all over me for using like hell and some things, and I was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was a mild one.
Yeah.
It's like
that's funny.
And then we would be out and we'd be throwing discus and stuff, and my girlfriend at the time would be like, don't cuss around me, I'm a Christian. It's like, and later I would think about that. I'm like, wait, if I'm telling you can't talk, say
mm-hmm.
certain things around me, and I want to share the gospel with you, like, can't you just turn to me and say, well, don't talk about that around me. I don't want to hear it. Right. And so I always tried to feel like, if I'm going to treat you like you want to be treated, I want to be treated. Now, I'm not going to cuss, but I'm not going to stop you from being you. Mm-hmm. I do think that there may be room for like, hey, don't use Jesus' name in vain around me. Don't use God's name in vain around me. I think that's okay as a Christian. Just kind of go like, hey, that's super disrespectful. I mean, I'm not here using your dad as a cuss word or can we not do that? And might lead to good conversation. Yeah. But I think trying to be legalistic about cussing on other people isn't helpful, right?
Yeah. I was just remembering a time at the beach. We were with all of our kids. There was probably like 12 kids there. And all these young college kids were cussing. So I ran up to them. And I was just like, I know this is going to be so weird and so silly, but we have all these little kids right around you. Like, would you mind not cussing? They were so nice about it. They totally stopped.
Great.
And
that's a great way to do it, though, and a great way to put it.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd love that. And now the Christian cuss words, what do I think about those? I think it's there is something about the use of filler words, which is what cuss words become, that are just kind of in the vocabulary. Like that's it's an emphasis, and oftentimes it's because I don't have a better word for that. That was freaking awesome. It's like it's kind of silly, but
we went through that period with the girls, because that's when it was like Christian cussing was like at its peak. I almost feel like, but it kept like going, like pushing the boundaries, right? And I think part of it is, I think the things that you were saved from, are the things that you are more hypercritical about too, right? Like for me, cussing and humor were always, part of my growing up. Not necessarily my family, but
so you were saved from cussing, but not humor.
When I gave my life to the Lord, cussing was not. It really was not even in my vocabulary anymore, and I didn't have to think about it or stop.
Yeah, really, I agree. That happened for me too in a lot of ways.
But humor for me.
Except for hell.
Humor for me. I mean, dirty jokes, making people laugh all the time. Dirty jokes, and I had a ton of them. I stopped doing that when I gave my life to the Lord, and it was like, even inching toward really promiscuous jokes makes me uncomfortable, and even to this day makes me uncomfortable. And so like when my girls were, using the freaking, and all that stuff that was popular, in the 90s or whatever.
I mean, it's popular now. I was just thinking like our kids use it all the time.
Yeah, and it's like, don't say that. Don't say. You're just replacing.
Why don't you tell my kids not to say that?
And they're like, it doesn't mean anything. But then it kind of graduated to where one of them was like, oh, what the F? And it's like, okay, wow, that is really close to,
Huh.
I mean, to be honest, like, I think that there's an issue with cursing, and I think that we really need to pay attention to our heart and like what's going on.
Right.
But I would say that, like, I'm more concerned with what we actually say to people rather than just using filler words. No, I'm not saying it's not a big deal, but it's just not as like high on my priority list in terms of like, I'm more concerned with how people treat each other and what they say to other people.
Or
than
about
the words
other
that
people.
or about other people.
I think there is a sense, though, that we want to watch this verse as in let no corrupt talk come out of your mouth, only as good for building up. And that we do want to build up our own language. Like I do still tend to believe that when we use fake filler words, even Christian filler words, it is a lazy attempt of communication. And we're not building our own ability to build up others.
I totally agree with you. The only thing
I agree that it's like on a scale of problems, it's pretty far down there.
Right. No, on a scale of but also like, okay, so can be a little bit vulnerable here. Maybe I'll regret this. I did not grow up cussing, never has struggled with it. I became a pastor's wife. It's very hard, and it brought out the cussing in me. And so like it's been more of like in the last decade of my life that I've struggled with it. And one of the reasons is that there are just some times where you're emotional and you're feeling something so intensely that, oh, darn it, doesn't
cover it.
It just doesn't fit the emotion. It doesn't cover it.
3 syllables.
And so I do feel like there should be moments in life where, as long as it's not like you're not tearing somebody down, could there be room and space for emotional language, that fits and emotionally like.
So there's
resonates?
argument theologically that cuss words are towards damnable things is appropriate. Like if it's a damnable thing, it ought to deserve the worst kind of language. I mean, abortion deserves the worst kind of language for what it does. Saline injections of children being burned and their skins burned off. That should be damned by God. I think that we sometimes are a little too polite to even evil. And not to the people, but to the thing, the evil itself. Like so I do think that when we are too careful with our language, we do not reserve the appropriate intensity for certain evils that should be damnable or should be. It is worth being thrown into the garbage. It is disgusting. It is wrong. The human being, no. The act, very potentially, depending on its severity and its evil.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hard part. As Christians, we have to honor people as made in the image of God. But we do not have to honor evil ideas. This is why I'm not opposed to what the Babylon Bee does in their sarcasm. Right. I'm opposed to when they make fun of an individual for who they are. That's not cool. But if they're mocking ideas, that is what the aim is, and why I think there is in some cases a case to be made that some of these terms are usable towards evil acts, but not ever towards people. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Now, I mean, we can get into this now, but if it's going to be more of a topic later in the series, then we can skip this now and bring it back up in the appropriate time. But you mentioned, there are the words, but there's also the tone and how you say those words, right? And so it made me think, I kind of jotted down some of the communication skills, like, okay, there's the words that are being said, but there's also the tone, which could mean completely the opposite of what you just said, or the body language associated with your words totally sending a mixed signal or opposite signal too. Are we going to talk about that later on?
I'll actually cover some of that actually in the listening section.
Okay.
Because it has a lot to do with the idea of how do you put others before yourself, and the use of your body and where you're sitting is a way of communicating I'm listening. Or communicating I'm not listening. Tone, however, and delivery, some people don't have tone in delivery. Like that is their excited voice, right? So it's like even though their excited voice is their angry voice. It's like they need like Mr. Angry Eyes. You know, it's like it just doesn't. Visibly you can tell they're upset, but there are people who they have a low affect, and so they are very much words people. But sometimes that tone is necessary, and it's hard to teach tone even in preaching.
We don't have that issue in our house. We have a bunch of passionate people in our house screaming and yelling.
Oh, so your tone represents right.
Oh yeah, our tones are
all over the map.
All right, so yeah, we can get into that in a couple of weeks then. So be prepared for those conversations. But also, you brought up James 3, 5, and 6, where how great a blaze by such a small fire, only one can prevent forest fires. It just sounded like Smokey the Bear. How great a blaze is burn a forest. And Proverbs talks about death and life are in the power of the tongue. And so we do have to master the tongue as best we can, which the scriptures say we never will. But when it comes to mastering the tongue, and I mean, talking good, building people up and all that stuff, but the other side is gossip, right? I think all of us have been victims of gossip. I think all of us have perpetuated gossip in our lifetime at some point. And I thought it was funny. I think you brought it up in the sermon. Was prayer requests are great fodder for gossip. You know, so let's just talk about what gossip is and what it isn't. Because I do feel like it can prevent us from having honest conversations and seeking help and growth because we're too afraid that it's going to be gossip, or we want to gossip, and so we find reasons like prayer requests in order to gossip about Sally who's cheating on her husband. Please pray for her, So
I think the best way that I've come to the definition of gossip is telling private matters to people who can't help but can hurt or be hurt. And that's the reason I put that is because you can tell private matters to like pastors. You can tell private matters to like counselors, but they are sworn to a certain level of secrecy. They're sworn to a certain level of like commitment that they don't share that information in places that don't need to go. In fact, if I have to share something that's burdensome, you just leave the name out. You erase the details and you just go, this was a hard thing. This is what happened generally. But you have to somehow get it out, but you don't be specific and you don't aim it at people. This is harder in a small community where you have people who figure out, that's so-and-so, isn't it? No.
I need some advice how to handle this situation, and I'm not going to use names, but you've been married to her for 20
But that was the definition I worked from, and so the gossip is like one of those things. I don't think we realize we're doing it because we just sometimes are just telling stories.
So I think that I can speak from my own experience. So like if I'm going and sharing something with somebody and I'm not asking them for advice in the situation, then I know that it's gossip, right? If I go into the situation and I'm sharing the situation with them and they might want to give me advice, but I'm not going to take it, then I know it's gossip, right? Like, so like they're not somebody, if I'm not going to get advice about the situation,
it's not going to help.
It's not going to help. I think that I do struggle in like some ways. Like, so I have a really close relationship with my mom and we talk through a lot of things. And so I would say that it's important to me to have a processing, like the ability to process things, even in ministry. And so I think that, just being able to have healthy conversations, you just got to pick wisely. So if you're going to your best friend, but she's not very mature and she's not very wise, and you're talking about things that's not going to be helpful for the community, right? Because it's the other thing too, I think, is one of the things that I like to keep in mind is one of the things I love about my mom is that I can share things with her and it's not going to change the way she thinks or treats that person, right? She's going to still love them and care about them. And if you're sharing things with people and you're a person that you confide in isn't mature enough to care about people, even when you share bad things or hard things, then that's not the right person to be sharing it with, because you're affecting the way that they view people. And so I just think that that's part of it is like you're trying to like get healthy and work through something and process something without completely destroying the other person.
Right. I think there is a place, though, for processing and prayer. And I think this is something we've forgotten, is that I can bring things to the Lord and tell him what's going on and actually literally work out the processing with him. And he's not going to tell anybody. He already knows, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, finding those mature people is critical. It always makes me think of that accountability group of pastors who got together and like they were finally confessing their sins. And one guy's like, oh man, I just really struggle with lying all the time. And another one's like, oh man, I struggle with sexual sin. It's lusting all the time. The third guy's just sitting there like, they're like, what's wrong? He's like, I struggle with gossip and I can't wait to go tell everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like what you said, Teresa. Not necessarily what you said, Greg.
Okay.
But I like what you said. And I think that the intention of sharing information with somebody is the key to help define whether it's gossip or not, and where the focus is. Is the focus on me, or is the focus on them? You know, and not sharing details that aren't pertinent to what you're sharing for.
I will even go one step further, though, as we'll talk about this week, is the focus on us. Am I sharing this for a healing, for the of a us or of a them? Like, I need help. I want to help them. How can we do this together? If it's, hey, I can't wait to tell. I'm telling you because did you hear? Or like, and it's about, look at what I've got for you. That's that. I think you're in a very bad heart zone. That's that flesh part.
Yeah.
That's ready to go. It's pitting people against each other. It's, hey, I got secret information.
Now I'm going to confess. And just, see if you guys have the same issue, right? Do you struggle with gossip in the sense that when somebody comes to you for advice or they're talking about somebody and they're not using names, and they're not gossiping, right? They're sharing, right? That you're sitting there going, who is that? Okay, and it's like,
no, never.
It's not that something I struggle with. It's just something that happens.
Yes,
yeah.
It just my brain is so fast. I'm like, oh, I already know who you're talking about. Darn it! Like,
yeah, I know. But I'm that way. Like when I'm watching a movie, I'm trying to figure out who did it. The whole time. And so a lot of times it's those conversations, and I do have to stop myself and go, okay. This is none of your business to try to figure out who this is.
I think it's all about intention of the heart, though, because I feel like if I figure it out and I care about that person and now I know something about them and I'm praying for them and I'm thinking about them, and I'm not like, oh, that loser. I'm thinking like, oh, my heart is grieved, like, in knowing this, like, so what I wrestle with in this conversation, I've always wrestled with it, is that for me, healthy relationships, you are known and you're loved and you know them and, love them. And so I really dislike communities where there's a tight lid on everything and like nobody talks and nobody knows anything. And then it's like,
then
all of a sudden
blows up.
Everything blows up. Yeah. And you're like, well, I had no idea, but nobody was gossiping. And like, that is just not appealing to me at all. So personally, I would rather err on the side of like slightly telling more than we should. But like, what's your intention? Do you want a healthy community? Do you love these people? Are you trying to tear them down? Like, those are the questions that I'm really concerned with.
Gossip in the text is usually talked about as, and this isn't like, I know this is stereotypical, but it's
women, I know.
It's women who are not married, who didn't have a job in the ancient world that would go from house to house to house sharing the stories. If you want to go with Anne of Green Gables, which is a great play that we're going to be having at the church soon.
In June.
There is the neighbor is the gossip. She's observing everything and can't wait to tell everybody about the little stories because, see, I'm in the know. Look at me. It makes me special. That's gossip. If you feel like collecting people's stories and sharing them is making you, that's a gossip problem. Yeah. If it's giving you some dopamine hit because
okay, so I have an example. I'm going to leave names out other than I was talking to my brother recently. And
don't worry, Jenny. She's not throwing you under the bus.
I was talking to my brother, and I was sharing something about one of my kids. We were talking about them, and he was like,
but not using any names.
Yeah.
No,
so far we've only used.
No.
I only have one brother. I'm not using any names.
I only have 4 kids.
No,
totally kidding.
You're missing the point.
I
promise the person that I should not mention is not going to be mentioned. So my brother and my child is fine to tell, but. So we were talking and I was letting him know something that had happened. And then as I was talking to him, I realized, oh, he doesn't know this. And then there was a part of me that was like, because we were connecting and we were sharing and like, this is an important aspect of this person's life. And
the scenario that it happened.
in the scenario. And so I felt like I didn't feel like it was gossip. And I actually was really proud of myself because I was like, I can't believe I haven't told you this yet. Like, it's been so long, you know, how did I keep this from you for that long? And so I realized, I don't know, I just wrestle with it. I don't think that it's black and white. And, but I will say one of the things for ladies out there, one of the things that I do is that if I say something or do something that makes me uncomfortable and I feel convicted by it, I have a rule in my life where I force myself to go and apologize. So I will go to that person and say, you know what, I was out of line for saying that. I shouldn't have said that thing. That helps keep a lid on my mouth because then I'm really cautious. I don't want to have to go apologize. And one of my friends, I kept having to go to her and I was like, okay, Lord, like I have to change the nature of our relationship because I keep getting, you know, into territory that's making me feel convicted. Anyways. I don't know.
That's a good rule.
It's a practical rule.
I mean, I try to live by the golden rule of, you know, if you don't have anything nice to say about somebody, wait until everybody else leaves the room and then tell me. And then tell me. But one of the things you talked about too is words and tone and all this stuff. But you also were like, take 3 seconds, you know, take 3 seconds and breathe, and ask yourself, do you want to break this or do you want to build this up? And if you don't want to break it, then maybe just shut up.
Yep.
Which is a Christian cuss word. I'm going to just say
shut
so.
up.
No, I'm kidding. But
it's a 5-year-old's cuss word.
I think that is a vital piece of information to really practice and put in your.
We have a tendency to say more than we need. I think that's the scariest of all of the verses is the one where Jesus says, "Every idle word you speak will be judged." I'm like.
Whoops.
We're not doing this podcast anymore.
Hey, that was my idea. Just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, like one of the things I believe, and I try to be pretty guarded in my words, other than my sarcasm, but when I'm really having a conversation, is just reminding myself that whatever is said can never be unsaid. You know, and I heard one time that somebody said that you can't. Let me see. I wrote it down.
Forgive.
Once. Oh, okay. Just pause and remind yourself that words can only be forgiven, not forgotten. You know, and that is powerful. And I think that sometimes we say things, and we in a moment that we want to hurt somebody, but we don't really want to hurt them forever, right? Especially, I think it happens in marriages a lot. And you say things. And you can never unsay them. And it just reminds me of, you know, what do you really want? You know, what do you really want your marriage to look like? What do you really want your spouse to believe about themselves and about how you feel about them? Because what you really, really want should always stay the purpose. Because what you want in any given moment can go gravely against what you really, really want. And you can, does that make sense?
Yes, I just can hear a song in my head, but keep going.
Yeah, tell me what you want. But you know, I just think that we have to be cautious because you can never unsay those things. And so if you say something brutally hurtful and then you come back and compliment them, it's never going to mean anything. You know, I always use the thing like if you had a boss, you know, and they're walking down the hall and they're like, you know, hey, good job. Hey, good to have you around, blah, 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 blah. One day they call you in their office and they say, listen, you are a miserable employee. We really don't want you. We're looking for every reason to try to get rid of you from this point forward. And, you know, I rue the day that we hired you. And then you see them in the hall 2 days later and they're like, hey, buddy, get going. You know, it's like, how much weight is that going to carry, you know, with the flattery? And I hate flattery, and so I do try to guard against it. But also just a reminder that you say something that it's almost impossible to get them to believe otherwise when you have really said it. Because out of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so you can't convince them that it's not in your heart, right? You're looking...
No, I'm just thinking like because out of the mouth, the heart speaks. So the question is, if you're saying "great job, buddy," but you're saying, you know, both those are coming out of your mouth. So that's where James is like, you can't have both happening at the same time. One's believable, one's not. I say words
words spoken in a moment of sobriety greatly outweigh the words saying in the heat of passion.
No, yeah, that's right.
But
my point is simply that like if that's the heated passion is the you're a worthless guy boss is saying it out of anger in that moment, but then he's walking around, hey, great job later. Yeah, it's like John Acuff always comes up with the equation, the I forget what he called it, but it was this basic concept that you're gonna believe the negatives before you believe the positive. It takes hundreds of positives.
Unless you're a narcissist.
To outweigh a negative, yeah. But I'm just saying that like there's a reality that we are so negative to ourselves already. Right. We believe the negative press before we ever believe the positive press. And so, yeah, you have to be careful. And the danger is that's why in encouragement, when we get there, we'll talk about it being very specific. We'll talk about when you do confrontation, why it has to be very, very specific and intentional for development, it's for building, not for breaking. So there's places for confrontation. There are places for heated moments where it's intense, but it always is about building. It's about refining, right? Heat is not always bad. It doesn't always destroy. Sometimes it sharpens, it hardens, it improves. And so there's those aspects, but we want to be careful about our heart conditions, right? And so when we get into mindset next week, we'll end up on talking about those two kind of aspects of the mindset, whether it's the flesh or the spirit. Because once we have Christ, we have a choice. When we don't, we only have the flesh. We only have one choice. And so that's, you can have altruistic attempts and things like that, but it's not going to last.
And we had a question as we wrap this up. Somebody in our small group, Kathy, we were sitting in a small group, and she said, hey, Greg in the sermon said that King James, that it was supposed to be the book of Jacob, and that King James wanted his name in the Bible, so when he revised it, he made it the book of James. Where did he get that? And I was like, I have no idea. I'd never heard that before, so I'm going to ask Greg.
Yeah, so when you eat crow, you season it with just a little bit of pepper and make sure that it's... honestly, I heard it in seminary. I don't know what class it was in. I don't know. It probably was a passing comment that got stuck in my head. Looked it up. It did some study, and no, it's a myth. James was already being used in the earlier English Bibles, like the Wycliffe translation. However, Jacob is the name of Jesus' brother. His name is Jacob. So it is translated in the New Testament every time Jacob is used as James, because apparently that's the French version. The Francs would use James, and so it turned so it turns into James versus Jacob, which is the Old Testament patriarch. So in the Old Testament it's always Jacob, the New Testament it's always James, but they're the same names. So in English we get two versions, and so unfortunately I guess it became a myth that James wanted it that way, but that's not true. I'm sorry.
And I will say it's not a deep theological misinterpretation, and I've heard many pastors use examples of something where you're going, Scopes proved that wrong a long time ago. No, don't say that.
Scopus? Or whatever. Scopes? Yeah, Scopes.
So, all right. I guess that's it.
Well, that is it. So thanks for the correction and for the help. We're just hoping our words were building you up and not breaking you down. And so if you would like to ask further questions, seek more clarification, especially as we go into the series on communication, throw us a line. Connect with us, communicate with us. You can get a hold of us at our email. That's rabbittrail@obcc.church. That's rabbit, that's one T, trail, that's with the second T. It's at obcc.church. I just want to make sure that they don't just go like rabbit trail.
I did that at Bible study when she brought that question up. I said, send it into Rabbit Trail. And she's like, kind of him and I'll email it. So I emailed it to rabbittrail@obcc.church and sent that message. So
with two T's.
With two T's.
Excellent. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We hope that you enjoyed this conversation on communication. And again, we'd love to hear back from you even more. May God bless you guys as you get into your conversations and use your words wisely. Have a great rest of your week. Stay safe.
And hold on. Boom chakalaka. Boom chakalaka. I missed it last week, so I needed to double up this week. It was funny because we finished last week, and you said, you didn't say boom chakalaka. And I'm like, I didn't? And then Dell texted me while he was editing, and he was like, what happened to your signature send-off? So,
well, that wasn't exactly how we sign off, but we're glad you joined us anyway. So I'll turn it over to you, Brent, for the final.
boom chakalaka.